Grace, and greetings to everyone. Grace, and greetings. Today, I'm coming to you live, and I had some things that I wanted to share with you guys today. Welcome, genuine creators, and we're going to start off today with two verses today. We're going to go to two verses and two places in the Bible. So, if you're watching right now, and for those who have been following, turn to Genesis 22:8. Genesis 22:8. For those who have their Bibles, or go ahead and get out your phone and look up Genesis 22:8. We're going to start there. And today we're going to be talking about systems for success. Systems for success. So there are systems in place for your benefit. There are systems in place for my benefit. Let's start out here at Genesis 22:8. So the preface here is, or the backstory is that Abram is asked by God, or told by God, commanded by God, hey, go do this thing. Go sacrifice the son who you love. Keep in mind, he has two sons. Go sacrifice the son who you love. I'm not telling you to do this. God's not telling me to do this. He's not telling me to go and sacrifice in this way. But we're going to prove a point through this. And so he tells him, go ahead and sacrifice your son. And so then he is now in chapter 22 of Genesis. And let's start at verse 6. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. Man, this sounds gruesome already, doesn't it? And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father and said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. And he said, behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went, both of them, together. Read that last verse one more time. And Abraham said, my son, God will provide himself an offering, himself a lamb for a burnt offering. Look at that. So, and it goes on, I won't read the rest, but it goes on to say there that when Abraham was going to go through with the sacrifice, God stopped him, right? He heard a voice from heaven, and he said, Abraham, stop what you're doing. And then they found the ram, actually, a ram caught with his horns in a thicket, in a bush. And so that was that first preface that I wanted to start out with, guys. And then now let's flip over to the New Testament, John 1:29. Let's go to John 1:29. John 1:29. And so, the next day, John sees Jesus. John is Jesus' cousin. Okay, John sees Jesus coming unto him and says, behold, the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world. I have the King James Version. Behold, the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world. So, we have John here, who is the cousin of Jesus, and one day, John sees Jesus coming, walking towards him, and he says, behold, the Lamb of God. Now, we just read in Genesis that back when, like generations ago, Abraham says, hey, God will provide himself a lamb. And so here it is in the New Testament. God provides himself a lamb through Jesus, through Yeshua, through God with us, Emmanuel, right? And this is, we find out, God's system or his way of doing things. His system for our success is in the Lamb. His system for your success, his system for my success is in the sacrifice of Jesus, not what Abraham or not what man could do or not what man could come up with to sacrifice for him. No, God's going to sacrifice for us. He's going to give us something. We can't really give God anything. He's going to give us something. And so it's that he loved us first, not that we loved him. And so let's keep that in mind. And so God, he provides himself a sacrifice. You could also say he provided himself a system. He provided himself a method or a structure, a way of doing things, right? And so you could call, you could call this a technique or a process, a structure that's already been put in place. So God has provided a structure for you. He's provided a structure for me. And it's whether, do you believe that or not? Do I receive that? Do you receive that? Okay, that he's provided a structure already, a process, a method, a technique to do things already to enhance my life, to enhance your life, to enhance my business, to enhance your business, to enhance your finances. He already has something in place. He's already put a system for your success in place. And so I want to give an example of this. So the opposite, usually when we don't have a system in place, it usually goes something like this. All right. Whoever did this, who does this? All right. So I'm going to go into a store and I'm going to order a nice cut of chaos with confusion and top that with some disorder. I want to order some disorder. And on top of that, right, top it with some disarray and give me a side of havoc and randomness, right? But really, this sounds silly, but in a sense and in essence, what we're doing when we don't have systems in place is we're saying, hey, what I'm really planning for is randomness and ruin. So what I'm planning for myself, right? We don't necessarily say this, and we might not even be thinking this, right? You might not even be saying this and thinking this, but in essence, it's almost what's going on. We're saying, you know what? I'm going to prepare for randomness and ruin in my life. And so I'm going to order some chaos with some confusion. I'm going to top it with some disorder. I'm going to order lots of disorder and lots of disarray because of not having systems in place, right? Because of not having some type of system in place. And so the other day I got a ticket, and this was the second time I got a ticket in like 3 months, within 3 months. And so why did I get a ticket? Because I'm relying on my mind, I'm relying on my memory to remember what day of the month and what time they're going to come and clean the streets, right? And really, in essence, what I'm doing is I'm saying or refusing a system that I could actually use. There's already a system in place that I could utilize, but I did not that I could use for my success. So by not using that, I'm really setting myself up for ruin, or I'm setting myself up to pay a ticket. I'm setting myself up in that way. And so what's one of the remedies? What could I do, right? What could I do? Well, I was talking to my brother the other day, and I want to say this. Sometimes it takes an outside source, doesn't it, to remind us. It takes one positive idea, right? One piece of advice, something said by a family friend or a business partner that could prove the difference in your life, to prove the difference in the trajectory of your life. And something as simple as me having a conversation with my brother, and he says, you know what, you should set something up with your personal assistant or Echo or Siri or what have you, and put it in there that it reminds you, on that day, you need to move your car because you got all these other things going on. You need some reminders. You need some backup, right? And so there's already a system in place called this technology that we have called, you could use your phone. I mean, I could have used my phone in that way and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to put in my phone on this day an alarm that reminds me to move my car, right? Something very simple. The system's already in place. The smartphones have already been, provided for us. They've already been created and all that. And so I must confess. Anybody else going to confess today? I'm confessing today that that's my second time of getting a ticket and having to pay out to the treasurer, the city treasurer, money that I didn't have to, I wouldn't have had to do that if I would have had or utilized the system that I already have in place that already is provided for me. And so I set it up with Echo today, actually, to remind me on this day, at this time, move your car. Just simple, right, guys? Something simple as that. There's a system already in place for my success. And so, another question: who likes to pay late fees? Here's another example. Who likes to pay late fees? I know I don't like to pay late fees. If I miss a payment, on a bill, credit card, or a company, whether it's on the personal side or on the business side. Okay. And so, I know I don't enjoy paying parking tickets. I know, or late fees, and I'm sure you don't enjoy paying late fees as well. And I'm sure there's people out there that already have this in place. I'm sure there's people out there that have never heard of this. I'm sure there's people out there who don't utilize this. There's a thing called auto pay. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful thing that's been that's out there for people to utilize. And so I have about all of my business bills set to auto pay so that it will automatically come out of the checking account and pay that. That way I don't have the headache, of having to pay a late fee, right? And so we're talking today, guys, about systems for success. You hear me talking about tickets and bills if you just tuned in. We're talking about systems for success. Systems are in place for your benefit. Systems are in place for my benefit. Okay, and so one of the reasons why, I was getting a headache and getting myself all bothered and things like that because of having to pay this ticket is because I didn't utilize something that was already in place, and that's called, a personal assistant, right? The Echo, the Siri, these different technological advances that we have. So Echo is a hands-free, voice-controlled personal assistant. So now I'm utilizing that to remind me such and such a day at such and such a time to be able to move my vehicle so that I don't get a ticket, right? And so, we prefaced this and we started this out speaking about God's system or his way of doing things. And one of those, or one of his main systems is that he instituted back when was his system of sacrifice, right? And so God has already provided a system, call it a method, a process called that sacrifice, how they had to sacrifice animals to cover the sins of the priest and to cover the sins of the people. God instituted this thing called a sacrifice, right? And so that was all to look forward. That was all a preview and a forecast, if you will, of the Holy Lamb that was to come, and Jesus and Yeshua and Emmanuel, God with us. And so he was really painting the picture and telling the story through Abraham and his life. And Abraham's life is even an analogy. He's known as the father of the faith, and Sarah would be known as Grace. And here we have, like, in this New Testament era that we're living in, that's how one is saved, by faith, right? Through grace, even by faith through grace. And so this whole idea, guys, of a system for success, are you utilizing these simple systems, for on the personal side, on the business side, and for your finances? And I know that, in the past I have utilized some systems, and even just recently. So there's I think most of us, or for some of us, we've said, you know what, We've just ignored systems, right, that are set up for our success. And so we need to rethink this. And sometimes we need reminded, right? I was just reminded, like I said, by my brother the other day. Hey, why don't you do this? It didn't even cross my mind. It didn't occur to me to even do that, so that I wouldn't have had to, come across here just the other day and have to pay this ticket and be, um, you know, pissed off or whatever, not, getting myself bent out of shape because I forgot to move the vehicle. So it was a reminder to me to use something that's already in place, use a system that will solidify my success, right? And so I wasn't going to talk about this, but for those who would like to be able to leave inheritance to their children's children, what's your plan? What's your system, and what's your plan to be able to pass down generational wealth, to be able to pass down houses, lands, vehicles, assets to your children's children? Like Proverbs talks about, what is your system, for to be able to do that? What is your plan? What's the method that you plan to do that through? And just to touch upon irrevocable trust lightly, okay, the irrevocable trust is it operates by codes and laws that have already been instituted, already in place, so that you can utilize this thing called an irrevocable trust to be able to avoid judges' 801ks and probate fees and lawyers' fees and taxes, right? Lawfully, right? And legally be able to avoid those things through this vehicle or this thing called an irrevocable trust. And so that's another thing just to keep in mind, for those who are, looking to utilize or have been asking yourself, or, been wondering, how would I be able to leave an inheritance? How will I be able to leave if I pass tomorrow? What has been instituted? What do I have in place to be able to leave an inheritance to my children's children? Keep in mind that wills will go to probate court. They always go to probate court. And then your heirs are going to have to pay the taxes and lawyers and judges fees on that, right? On the estate that you left for them. And so a way to avoid that, and to wisely avoid that, and to illegally avoid that, would be to have an irrevocable trust set in place for you. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Systems for success, guys. Are you utilizing these different systems that are in place? I just gave, two really simple ones. We utilize Echo. If you don't have Echo, you can utilize your computer. Another thing that we utilize as well, through my partnership is something of a scheduler called Calendly, and that it's another example of utilizing a system that happens automatically. And so to free ourselves up, to free your mind with, all right, to free, I want to say, like, bandwidth, right? So you're not, overly, bombarded by all the different things in life. You have to be able to, and it's good to be able to categorize some things and put some things on autopilot, if you will. And that's the nature and the blessing, if you will, of, even something like a smartphone, or a personal assistant like Echo or Siri, and to be able to have those automatic bill payers in place, those things that happen automatically, that will make your life simpler, will make your life easier. All right, so that's what I have for you guys today. And until next time, guys, great grace and plenty of peace to you.